Hey guys, this is I'm some Lego Maniac with another custom minifigure showcase video, and for this video I have the Bad Batch. Now this has been a long project of mine. I started this back in January actually, when I bought these helmets from AV Figs, my good buddy Andrew. And the reason why it took me so long to complete it is because because I was still completing my last semester at the toy design program, and it took me so long to finally record the video because just recently I moved into my new apartment. I'm starting a new job as a toy designer, so that's very exciting, and so that's why it's been taking me a while to make videos. So besides the stream that I re-uploaded from my Twitch, that was a storybook reading, the last time I made a video was sometime in August 2020. So I've made so many figures between then, and I also made like figures that I haven't showcased for more than 2 years, such as my Phase 2 MCU villains. So hopefully during this year I can catch up to make more content for you guys, just to show you guys the 360 views of my figures. Now, if you want to follow me on Instagram, please do so. I'm always active there, so you can see what I'm up to and what other projects I've been making. I'm not going to go over that in this video because it will take too long. And as always, I'm going back to this like an old showcase format. I've been doing that ever since I started the toy design program because editing videos takes a long time, and I want to make it quick and simple for you guys. So yeah. So I know you guys might be thinking, oh, Aaron uploaded his Bad Batch video and now I'm uploading mine after. I actually am the very first few who actually completed the entire team of the Bad Batch. Again, I started this back in January and I worked on these guys for months when I have like free time in between schools. And so I know some people might be thinking, oh, this is Lego-Matic 9's design. It is not. I've pretty much completed it first. And the proof is on my Instagram on the time date, and even when Aaron talked about it in his custom recap podcast with Nate. So I don't want to hear any accusations. And if you guys are wondering, like, am I making blank figure or this figure? Am I making that character? Do I sell these? I always tell people to read the description because it's really time for me to go over it. Now there's two more figures I don't have in this shot, but I'll go over them in the future. I just wanted to show you guys the main Bad Batch here. We have Hunter, Omega, Crosshair, Tech, Echo, and Wrecker. Now, these guys are really fun. I made them in my own style in the way that I see fit. I may change something in the future, and I will go over certain parts that might be for sale, because I know so many people have been DMing me on Instagram about that. So without further ado, let's continue. Oh, I forgot to mention my entire experience making these figures. It means so much to me because I worked on the Hasbro toy products based on these guys. It was a lot of fun. During the summer of 2020, I had the opportunity to intern at Hasbro, and I had the chance to work with the Star Wars team. They were making Mission Fleet, which is pretty much, think of it as your kid-friendly, kid-oriented Black Series and the Vintage Collection, and what they do, they incorporate little tiny figures with vehicles. And it's meant for kids. It's a children's toy. And I had the opportunity to work on deco for the Bad Batch. And that means I knew this show was going to come out way before it was publicly announced. And I had to keep that a secret. There was a lot of things I had to keep a secret plot-wise, such as Crosshair betraying the group, the Bad Batch getting a new team member besides Echo, Echo getting a new costume, and a couple others as well. Even the time period when it'll take place. So it was really hard to keep that a secret. But I have to keep it because in the end I did sign a non-disclosure agreement, and I cannot reveal anything that is not publicly known. So that was really challenging, but in the end, I was able to get these figures on. Working on these figures means so much to me. It does have a special place in my heart, knowing that I had part in making the figures as actual toy products for a company like Hasbro. It was a really fun opportunity, and I talked about it before on Instagram just a little bit, but I didn't really go in depth because I can't really do that. There are some things I still can't say regarding my position, what I did at Hasbro, but that's all I can really tell you guys. It's really fun. So yeah, so moving on to the video. So for the very first figure that I finished, and that's Hunter, the leader of Clone Force 99. Hunter was a very interesting figure to make. The helmet is from AV Figs. This was actually his original prototype back then. And now that he made the version 2, part of me wants to buy the version 2 because I think I like the shape of that a bit better. And so if I were to make a version 2 of Hunter, I'm gonna go with the newer helmet that Andrew provided. Now, if you're wondering why not like Nate's, I don't get me wrong, I think Nate's prints are amazing. But if I were to use that, then it would kind of stand out for being way too detailed compared to Andrew's. The reason why I went with Andrew's is simply because two reasons. One, because his tech helmet does have a movable visor, which I wanted, and plus it does stick a little bit closer to how Lego would make their molds to make it quite simple. As much as I love the indented visor, the mouthpiece that Nate does, I went with more of a simpler approach because I think simple is probably best for these types of figures. I've done that for my other clones like Rex and the the Phase 1 Clone Trooper because their helmet is like very Lego-like. I wanted to make sure I capture that style for the most part. And that also means try to go less sculpting detail as much as possible and just paint most of the armor. Now, with a couple exceptions. So the head is like all fully painted. The backpack is actually a Clone Army Customs backpack, and I painted that. I could have went with like a 3D print piece of the Commando backpack that Benson provided me. But I might do that in version 2 if I were to get to it in the future. His shoulder pads are also sculpted, and looking back, I should have used like a Commando shoulder pads that were 3D printed. Benson was actually kind enough to give me extras, and I didn't ask him to. He just gave them to me. So I'll probably just use those instead because I think I like the bulkiness of that more. Mine are a bit too small, so I'm gonna have to fix that. And that way I can paint the actual logo a bit clearly because it's way too small that it just looks like dots. His chest is also sculpted as well, and I also sculpted a little knife holster that he has. And also I sculpted all my clone troopers this little wrist gauntlets too, and I sculpted knee pads and everything. And also I sculpted him a crotch piece because I think it will be useful for my clone troopers in the future. It's something I'm gonna do. And that was all dry sculpted. So yeah, and everything else is just pretty much fully painted. I went with gloss black and then went with a matte black to mix things up. And also for his head, I also painted this head. It's actually fully painted. I would have done using the Clone Trooper head, but I think because of the Bad Batch are all unique individuals, I think they deserve to have different expressions. So, and this hairpiece is actually a Cole from the Lego Ninjago movie. I just cut off the bun and I re-sculpted it, and I also completely sanded off the sides here because the hair was sticking a bit too low, and I sanded that, re-sculpted it, and I also shaved off the hair in the back so that way the backpack could fit. So yeah, so here's Hunter. Really, really cool. Crosshair has to be my favorite character in the Bad Batch so far. To be honest, he was actually my least favorite character in Clone Wars Season 7 because I just hate how much of an asshole he is. But after watching him in the Bad Batch, I really like him as a villain character. And I think that role fits him perfectly. And it's just so well done in my opinion. Definitely the best part of the show. Whenever Crosshair shows up. It's a shame that he doesn't really show up in the show as often. So, just like Hunter, the helmet is actually from AV Figs. This was the Phase 1 helmet that he designed. And would I update him using the newer helmet? Probably not, because I think it still captures, I think overall it's still a solid design, so I'm just going to leave it the way it is. It originally did not have a hole for a rangefinder, so I had to use a pin vise to make my own rangefinder for that, which is actually all scratch built. I actually use this black rod that Andrew provided, so I can use it for tech as well. The rangefinder was made with clear plastic, and I sculpted it. And this and the lever part was actually from a Lego piece. I forgot which though. So you can bring that down, and there you go. And then you have Crosshair with his rangefinder. Everything else what I did with Hunter, I pretty much sculpted his shoulder pads. I sculpted the waist piece. I sculpted his knee pads. I also sculpted gauntlets here and his chest. And his ammo belt, that's actually dry sculpted here. And I also used E-tape. I also used E-tape for the belt, and I also dry sculpted his little holster for his pistol. And his backpack is actually designed by me. I wanted to replicate what the Black Series did for his gun. for storage. So that's what I did. So that's pretty much what I did. I can show you guys the feature right now, but first, take a look at his gun. This was also designed by me as well. This actually can separate in 2 pieces. And if you guys want this, my good buddy Nate's Minifig, you know him, like he sells a lot of 3D printed part. I'm gonna have to say this once because I know some people are gonna just skim through a video and gonna ask where did you get these. I know that because someone literally commented that for Omega's bow in Aaron's video when he explicitly said where he got it from. So so reminder, you need to watch the video carefully and please pay attention. So yeah, so this can separate in 2 parts, and just like the Black series, this back here attaches onto the back like that, and you see this little hole here, that's where this little peg goes, and you peg that in. And there you go. And this sometimes can be a little bit loose, but overall it can stand fairly decently well. And take another good look at Crosshair here, and that's how his weapon storage is. Because some people, I know Andrew does that as well, but it's actually the entire gun that just sticks out. That just looks a little bit weird to me. If you want something like a little more accurate, it's probably something you're probably gonna have to go with something like this. Now I did make changes on this, so when you get the final one, since this is a prototype, that I made the handle a bit shorter because the handle's a bit too long. So if you want to go with like this route, you can, and it'll allow you to do that. And if some people prefer that way, and yeah. So that's pretty much like Crosshair here for his like gun accessory. Again, Nate is going to sell it in his store, and he's going to post more news on that on his Instagram, and I'll promote it as well. So yeah, so if you guys want your hands on this, just make sure to follow both of us on Instagram. And for his head, I sanded a little peak hairpiece, and I painted this head entirely, and I really like this head a lot. It probably captures Crosshair's like personality, and it just makes him look like, yeah, he's very stern. For all the Bad Batch, I painted them in unique faces because they're unique clones. I think they should stand out from your standard clone trooper, in my opinion, from the regs, you know. So yeah, that's pretty much on Crosshair. My favorite figure of this entire collection. Tech is a character that I would consider a version 2 in the future, but as of right now, I'm perfectly fine with the way he is. So his helmet is also from AV Figures. The antennas are actually the black rods that Andrew provided, and so I trimmed that and I glued them onto his head. The visor is not from him. I believe he got that from someone else. But yeah, the visor can move up and down, and if I'm brave enough, I would love to drill a hole and put a plastic sheet to make it transparent yellow, because overall, I think I like the transparent yellow. The reason why I didn't paint this because I just like the little details, all those printed details that was on the helmet, and I didn't want to paint over it because I think it won't look that good. But because everybody else is painting it gold or yellow, I think it'll look good that way. And what I did, I also sculpted his goggles on top of the helmet because like this is meant for decaling. Andrew made that flat, but for his newer tech helmet, it actually does have the goggles, and I think I'm gonna buy that. Some people prefer like without the printed goggles, just like when Nate he provided the one that doesn't have that, and I think that works fine. I just wish if the visor moves up and down, I could definitely consider it. So yeah. Now the backpack, this was actually provided by my good buddy Benson. Benson does a lot of 3D printed parts for me. I would give him the files and he would print them out and ship them to me. And he's my go-to guy whenever I do prototypes, because I love working with him, and he also gets free stuff from me too. And I get free stuff from him as well. He got me a lot of cool 3D printed pieces, and I can't wait to use them for the future figures. So yeah, so this is what he provided. I don't know if he designed it or if he just found that somewhere else, but he gave that to me. I sculpted his chest and his shoulder pads, and I think for his chest, if I were to do this a bit differently, I would probably sculpt the chest a little bit lower because I think it's too high up and it's too small, and I would love to do like a more of I don't know, work with the light gray that I have to make sure it looks like it's battle damaged and worn and it looks clean, so I might do that. And I might change his legs as well in the future because I couldn't fit all the straps, and I want to make sure I do that in the future. And his belt, that's actually and all the pouches, that was all dry sculpted, and I really like that. Here we have this like little tool tools here on the side, which I might redo because it's not as clean. After looking at Aaron's, it kind of makes this figure put into shame if I'm being honest. I didn't give him what is it called, a temp pad? No, temp pads from Loki. His little controller that he has. I'll probably make that in the future. I didn't really consider it because I've seen him dual wielding pistols like most of the time. Actually, no, that's a lie. We've seen him using that gadget tech thing. I just gave him dual wield pistols instead, and I would definitely consider making him the little gadget device in the future. So yeah, and last thing is his head. I fully painted this head, and what I did, and this is the first time I did it, and I later showed it to my friends, and they took inspiration from this. I used a Tamiya translucent yellow paint, so that way it looks like he has translucent yellow lenses. So you've seen Aaron doing that as well. So yeah, and it works perfectly. And I also used a Mr. Incredible hairpiece, but what I did, I completely cut off the front and I sculpted it my own, so it's a bit more shape accurate in the show. So yeah. So, and here's Tech. He doesn't have much character development in the Bad Batch, which is kind of disappointing, which is why he's kind of a boring member in my opinion. But overall, he's a really fun figure to make, and I'm glad that I was able to finish him. Now we have the big boy Wrecker. This guy was a very challenging figure to make because I've done like extended limbs and bulkier figures before. I've done that with Kurtz, which I still haven't made a video of. But for Wrecker, he's a bit different because I don't want him to be the same size, especially since he doesn't have a hairpiece. I don't want him to look like he's smaller than the rest, but I also don't want to make him too bulky, you know what I mean? So I wanted to find a good in-between middle for that. So and that's pretty much what I settled on. That's where I got this body, and I've made like a tutorial on my Instagram, a step-by-step tutorial, so you can see how exactly did I make this figure. And yeah, Aaron also asked me some tips on Wrecker as well. He said that in the custom recap podcast, and I sent him and Nate instructions so that way Nate can also 3D print a base like this in the future. So I don't know if he's planning on that right now. Don't take my word for it, but I'm just hoping that he does because I think it'll be awesome because doing this is a lot of work and a lot of people don't have the right tools to do it, and I think providing them a good MIDI base would probably be beneficial. So yeah, just like everyone else except for Echo, of course, his helmet is actually from AV Figures. Now the only modification I did, I actually sculpted in little breathers so to give him more 3D detail. And the rest of the thing is sculpted. Now it's not crisp like what Aaron did. Like he sculpted like leg armor and stuff like that. I actually went a little bit less on a sculpting route for the most part because I wanted to keep it consistent with the rest of the figures. Just like the rest of the figures, I sculpted in like the gauntlet, I sculpted in the shoulder pad. With the exception of I sculpted around his arm because just so I can make his arm a little bit bulky, so I broke the rules a little bit there. I sculpted his entire chest. I sculpted his crotch piece, and I sculpted like his knee pads and armor. I did not sculpt like his leg armor to add bulk because at the end of the day, I want my Wrecker figure to at least move his legs. And the reason why it's like this is because there's a radiator piece, so there's not. So yeah, so I want my Wrecker to at least move his legs so I can do poses, which is why I didn't really went crazy on sculpting on the legs, except for adding bulk on the side, which makes his legs less skinny, and I sculpted in like his knife holster. So yeah, those are the creative liberties I have to take. I didn't want to go way too detailed in sculpting, or else it would just look way off compared to the rest of the figs, which is why I try to keep it as simple as possible. So yeah, hope you guys understand that. Anyway, we all know Aaron's is the best anyway, regardless if I finish this figure or not. So yeah, taking off the helmet. And here we have Wrecker. This was a lot of fun to paint, and it looks exactly like him. I went with like painting like the scar instead of carving it like what Aaron did because I don't want to take a risk like that. And you can also display his helmet just like this, so he looks like a goofball. So yeah, and his gun is actually from a Colonial and Customs. I got this like way before like Brick Arms then decided to make their own like commando gun. And the backpack here, I actually got that from Benson. I asked Benson if it's possible to upscale this backpack because Wrecker's a big boy, so he actually upscaled this for me. So compared to the normal size that you would get from him if he were to give you something, this is actually a little bit bigger, which makes sense because Wrecker is a big guy, and giving him a bigger backpack definitely helps out a lot. So yeah, that's pretty much it on Wrecker. He's really fun to make. He was quite of a challenge, and I'm glad that my instructions helped everyone and inspired them to make their own Wrecker. I've seen people tagging me on for like figures they've built, figures they've made on Instagram, and I like it. I do see all the things you tag me, guys, and it's really awesome that you guys are taking inspiration from that. So yeah, we'll move on to the remaining figures. Our next figure we have is Echo. Echo was something I actually started quite a while ago. After getting like the files from Hasbro, and I get to see what Echo looks like compared to the rest of the public. I was fortunate enough to see his design, and it looked awesome. Now, obviously, I couldn't share it to friends or family or anything like that because that's part of the non-disclosure agreement. When you work on a licensed project, you can never show it to anybody else besides your coworkers, pretty much. And so yeah, so I had to keep the Bad Batch a secret from a lot of people. It was really hard to keep that secret, but I managed to do it. But it doesn't matter in the end because other people tend to leak stuff, which is not my fault because I have nothing to do with it. So yeah, so I've been working on this helmet by myself for a while after getting that. I believe I started working on this helmet around January, before the trailer even came out or any like leaks of Echo's new look. So I was secretly working on this by myself, making sure nobody looks at me while I'm working on this. So it was my own secret project. So yeah, but if I were to buy an Echo helmet, because I think there are better ones, I think Nate has the best Echo helmet out there, so I would probably consider getting it from his. The reason why I went with mine instead because I made it and I do have a special attachment to it. So yeah, so this was all modeled and 3D print by me, and I asked Benson if he could print it for me once the trailer came out and I can finally talk about it, and he was kind enough to do that. And what I did for this helmet, I actually took inspiration from the Mission Fleet ones because I was working on the Bad Batch Mission Fleet. I shrank the proportions and changed it up a bit so that way it actually fits like Lego style. So that's why the shape of it is a little bit different than on screen, because on screen it's very rectangular. I couldn't really do that for Lego or else it would be way too tall. So I had to take some creative liberties to make sure it kind of fits like what Lego would do. So yeah. Moving on, the backpack is again from Benson. He was able to print that out for me, and because it's the same as as text, it makes it so much easier. And the things I sculpted obviously are the front chest, the shoulder pads, the wrist, and I did the belt, which I made out of E-tape, and then I sculpted the pouches. I also sculpted pouches on the back. I used a cape madness, like a waist cape, to sculpt. And then I modified it and I sculpted like his crotch armor, the pouches, his knee pads, and also these like circular parts on his legs because the bottom portion of his body are cybernetic parts. And his arm is interesting because it's actually a magnet. So yeah, so because there's a piece of metal in there that I glued, and this joint is actually a magnet itself, so that way you can magnetically attach this, and you can also move his elbow. So he has a little bit of elbow articulation. Now there's a reason why I made this magnet is because in the concept arts that I was given, and you see this in the Hot Toys as well, he gets like different arms. By the time I'm recording this video, I still have yet to see that in play. So what I did, I just like cut up like the bottom portion of the arm here, and then I attached a magnet to it, so you can just attach the magnet like that, and there you have his cybernetic arm. He does come with other arms. I haven't made them yet, but in the future I will consider at some points. The only thing I really add, and I just didn't really paint the rest of the hand, is this extended hand, which I saw in the concepts, and I thought it was going to be in a show, but as of right now, by the time I'm recording this, the last finale didn't show up yet, so I don't think this arm will ever come into play. So you can have his long arm here, but because it's like kind of heavy, so it kind of droops down a lot. But yeah, here's his extended hand. He does come with like other arms though, which I'll consider making in the future. So yeah, that's pretty much like the plate feature on his arm. His arm is actually designed by me. I actually got a Lego screwdriver piece. I trimmed it a little bit, and then I sculpted around it, and I glued a magnet on. So this arm was actually completely scratch built. I kit bashed it. So yeah, that's really fun. His pistol is also for break arms, and once I remove his helmet, I try to copy his face, just like how Lego paints their clone troopers nowadays. And yeah. And for the back here, I pretty much like grabbed this helmet file, and I pretty much just like did an extrude cut for his headpiece, so that way you can just attach it. Now, I had a hole back here, so that way it can be magnetically attached, but for me, it seems to just fit around just fine without the magnet. It seems to wrap around just nicely. Aaron was able to use this, even though this design is different than Nate's. But everyone else is probably going to use that. I don't know if I'll sell that though, because if that is, I have to sell this helmet, which is not as great as Nate's in my opinion. And I think I might have to talk to Nate that he should probably consider making that a separate piece, because I think that would be a really cool opportunity. So yeah, that's pretty much it on Echo. I'm really glad that everyone now gets to see his new look and design, because it was really hard for me to keep this a secret, and it was so awesome seeing the concept art myself before anyone else in the world could see it, besides people at Lucasfilm or people at Hasbro. It was really exciting for me. So yeah, moving on to the last member of the Bad Batch. Our last figure we have in the team is Omega. I wanted to keep Omega very simple, so I didn't want to go too crazy on giving her a waist cape or sculpted hair. I just wanted to make a really quick and simple figure. So that's pretty much what I did. So not much crazy here. I just painted her arms, I painted her torso, and I gave an E tape that kind of just wraps around. The head is a Cho Chang head, I believe, and I think it works well for like a purest Omega in my opinion. And the hair is a Luke Skywalker hairpiece. I was thinking of like sculpting a hairpiece myself and just having the little this headpiece that she wears, but she took that off and she didn't wear it for quite a while. In fact, I think she only wore that in the first episode. But Benson is actually making like an Omega hair, and he's gonna give that to me for free, so I'm gonna just paint that up. But the cool part about Omega is her bow. So this is like the bow when it's closed. I designed it myself, and yeah, and I believe, and you can buy this from Nate when he finally puts in his website. So yeah, so you guys can get your own bow here. So this is what the bow looks like when it's in standard position. I made some changes on the final product, so because in the final product, the handles are a bit thicker, so you don't have to worry about it snapping off. For me, it didn't really snap off. The handles is really durable, but I understand some people may have concerns. Now this is the bow when it's painted up. So here we have the bow. Aaron was fortunate enough to get the few prototype samples, and he gets to use it for his Omega. And yeah, this bow designed by me, and you guys will get your hands on it when Nate finally sells it. So yeah, this was really fun to make. I definitely wanted to 3D print Omega's bow, because I know that's going to be a huge demand, and I knew Aaron would also want it soon, and other people too. So I went ahead and quickly made it and promoted it, and you guys will get your hands on it. So, yeah. That's pretty much it for Omega. And in the future, if I were to like update it, I would give her like a bandolier that has like all the tech stuff and maybe like a comm link. I will consider that in the future. As of right now, it's not really my concern. Alright, so we have like few more figures, actually just 2 more figures, including this one. Here is Imperial Crosshair. I definitely wanted to make Imperial Crosshair. Just like how I knew like Echo's design, I knew that Crosshair was going to be a villain and he was going to join the Empire, and he's going to get a new look. I did like help design the Mission Fleet Bad Batch, and Crosshair was one of them, and he was really easy, because all I had to do was just deco on him, and he only has like 3 deco, which is his belt, his goggles, and the entire figure is just black, pretty much. So yeah, this was really fun to make. The helmet is from Andrew again, and this time I actually bought his rangefinder because I didn't really feel like making one myself. The rangefinder didn't really fit very well, so I had to use a pin vise to make sure the rangefinder does fit. So here it is, and to take a look again, this entire the chest and the lower part of the chest are sculpted. He does have some sort of an ab armor, so I was able to like just sculpt a thin sheet of that. The belt is all like E tape, and I also sculpted like the same reflectors, just like he has in his Republic gear. I sculpted the buckle, his shoulder, his wrist, and his knee pad, and the backpack is the same. And the only minor difference is it doesn't have all the red paint on it. It's just like wash of silver for a little battle damage. And yeah, and the backpack works and the gun storage works the same way. His head, I just quickly swapped that with like my Republic one. Underneath, he usually just has like a standard black head, but for this, I just want to show him what he looks like unmasked. So yeah, here he is. So that's pretty much like Imperial Crosshair. Again, I think he's like a really cool villain, and I really like how he turned out. So yeah, we can move on to our very last figure. Our very last figure is an Elite Squad Trooper. Now, I knew these guys were going to exist, again, because like I knew like a general plot of the story during my internship at Hasbro. So at the very beginning, I mistakenly thought that this trooper was going to be the newest member of the Bad Batch, because when my manager was flipping through concept art of the Bad Batch, she mentioned that she offhandedly mentioned that the Bad Batches are going to get a new team member, and as she said that, she was flipping through images, one image of this guy, the Elite Squad Trooper, and my mind immediately thought this was going to be the newest member, not knowing that it would have been Omega in the future. So yeah, and I eventually realized that when she mentioned later on, like after a good chunk of time working with her. During the internship, she mentioned that when Crosshair is joining the Empire, he's actually leading a squadron of these troopers. So I was like, oh, okay, so these guys are pretty much troopers. I didn't know they were called Elite Squad Troopers. There wasn't really a name that we went with them. I think we call them like Shadow Trooper, or sometimes pre-Death Troopers, because they do sort of resemble that. So what I did, it's the same thing what I did for the others. Sculpted chest, sculpted arms, sculpted gauntlet, sculpted waist, and sculpted knee pads. I try to make it a bit similar to how I did like Rex and a Phase 1 clone trooper with a little bit modification. So in the future, whenever I make like clone troopers like this, I'm going to have to go with like this template just for consistency. Now the helmet is actually like a standard Lego helmet, which I bought from from Clone Army Customs back then, and I just painted that up. I tried to paint the visor to make sure it follows exactly what Lego would do for their clone troopers in the future. The blaster is from AV Figures, because I didn't have enough blasters like that. And so yeah, everything else, like even the back is like fully sculpted, because they don't have back, because unlike the Bad Batch, they don't have like the Commando backpacks, so I had to keep that consistent with the rest of the clone troopers. So yeah, and there's nothing underneath this head. It's just a black head. It just doesn't really matter who's underneath. I would make 4 of these, but I figured just one's good enough. So yeah, that's pretty much it for my entire Bad Batch figures. If I were to make more in the future, like Hauser or other clone troopers in the future, I would consider it, but as of right now, it's not my priority. I have other clone troopers I do want to make in the future though, so I might revisit the Bad Batch in the future. I don't know when. So yeah, and so I know some of you guys are going to ask me about that. So yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. Thank you guys so much for watching this, and we can conclude this video. Alright guys, thank you so much for watching this video. This was a huge fun, and I love showing these figures, and I wanted to show them as soon as possible for you guys so you can see 360 views and my thoughts on it. Overall, I think the Bad Batch is a fun show. Like, whenever it focuses on the main plot, that's when it really gets good. Whenever it does like filler and sort of waste time, it does kind of become a bit drag. I think it's a really slow show. It should have been 8 episodes in my opinion, but I know some people like the filler. No, good for them, That's awesome. Personally, I just wish they focused more on the main storyline. So yeah, that's pretty much my opinion, quick opinion on the Bad Batch. It's not a review. This is a custom minifigure showcase. Making these figures was a great opportunity, and I can't believe I finally finished it. And so yeah, stay tuned for more videos whenever I have the time to upload. So yeah, thank you guys so much, and I'll see you guys later. Bye bye.